The manila envelope landed on my desk with a soft thud. Inside was everything I needed to bring down Patricia Reynolds, my mother-in-law, and the woman who'd spent the last 6 months trying to steal my $40 million inheritance. My name is Claire Bennett, and at 32, I was about to teach my mother-in-law a lesson about underestimating the wrong person. The inheritance came from my father, a self-made tech mogul who'd built his fortune from nothing. He passed away unexpectedly 6 months ago, leaving everything to me, his only child. What Patricia didn't know was that he'd also left me something far more valuable than money. He taught me how to fight. "Mrs. Bennett," my assistant's voice crackled through the intercom, "your mother-in-law is here for your meeting." I smoothed down my silk blouse and tucked the envelope into my drawer. "Send her in, Angela." Patricia swept into my office like she owned it, her channel suit and perfectly coiffed silver hair radiating old money confidence. Behind her trailed her son, my husband, Michael, looking uncomfortable as always when caught between us. "Claire, darling," Patricia's smile was sharp as a knife. "I thought we could discuss the situation like adults." I gestured to the chairs across from my desk. "Please sit." They settled in, Patricia crossing her legs primly while Michael fidgeted with his tie. I studied them both, remembering how different things had been just 6 months ago. Back then, Patricia had welcomed me into the family with open arms, or so I thought. Michael and I had met at a charity gala, fallen in love, and married within a year. The Reynolds family was old money, and Patricia had seemed delighted that her son had found someone from good stock, as she put it. Then my father died. The change in Patricia was instant. The moment she learned about the inheritance, her mask slipped. Suddenly, I wasn't good enough for her son. I was a gold digger, a social climber, someone who did deserve such wealth. "I've spoken with Harrison," Patricia began, referring to my father's lawyer. "He agrees that the will seems irregular. Your father was under considerable stress in his final days. His judgment may have been impaired." I kept my face neutral. "Is that so?" "Yes," she continued, pulling out a document from her designer handbag. "In fact, he's prepared to testify that your father expressed doubts about leaving everything to you. He mentioned wanting the money to go to a more stable family unit." My eyes flicked to the paper she was holding. A statement supposedly signed by Harrison, questioning the validity of my father's will. I knew it was forged because the real Harrison had been in my office just yesterday, showing me evidence of Patricia's attempts to bribe and threaten him into changing his testimony. "That's interesting," I said carefully. "And what exactly do you propose?" Patricia's smile widened. "A reasonable compromise. The money should be placed in a family trust, managed by Michael and me. You'd still have access to a monthly allowance, of course." I glanced at my husband, who was staring intently at his shoes. "Michael, what do you think about this?" He looked up, startled at being addressed directly. I just want what's best for everyone." Typical Michael, always taking the path of least resistance. It was one of the things that had initially attracted me to him. His easygoing nature balanced my drive. Now I saw it for what it was, weakness. "What's best," Patricia cut in, "is protecting this money for future generations. You're clearly not equipped to handle such responsibility, Claire. Your father's company has already seen a 5% drop in stock value since you took over." I had to admire her research, even if it was selective. The stock had dropped right after I'd uncovered and exposed a massive fraud scheme in the company's Asian division, a cleanup operation that would ultimately strengthen our position. "I see," I said, opening my laptop. "And I suppose these offshore accounts you've been setting up have nothing to do with your concern for future generations." Patricia's smile faltered slightly. "I don't know what you're talking about." I turned the screen toward her, showing a detailed record of her recent financial activities. "No, let me refresh your memory. 3 new accounts in the Cayman Islands opened last month. Interesting timing, considering that's right after you first approached Harrison challenging the will." The color drained from her face. "How did you get this information?" I finished for her. "Let's just say I learned a few things from my father about keeping tabs on potential threats." "Did you really think I wouldn't be watching?" Michael finally spoke up, his voice shaky. "Mom, what is she talking about?" I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. "Your mother has been busy, Michael," I explained, pulling out more documents. "Bribing officials, forging documents, even hiring private investigators to dig up dirt on me. all while pretending to have the family's best interests at heart. Patricia's composure cracked. You little bitch, you've been spying on me? No, Patricia. I've been protecting my father's legacy from someone who thought she could steal it through manipulation and fraud. I pressed the intercom button. Angela, please send in our guests. The office door opened and Harrison walked in, followed by 2 men in dark suits, FBI agents specializing in financial crimes. Patricia's face went from white to gray. What is this? This, I said calmly, is what happens when you try to steal from the wrong person. The next few hours were a blur of activity. The FBI agents interviewed Patricia while I sat in my office, watching her carefully construct the facade crumble. Michael paced outside, alternating between trying to call his mother's lawyer and shooting me wounded looks through the glass walls. I ignored him, focusing instead on the live feed from the security cameras. Patricia was doing what she did best, lying smoothly, playing the concerned mother-in-law who only wanted what was best for the family. But I could see the cracks in her performance. My phone buzzed, a text from Harrison. She's trying to pin everything on me. Says I was the one who suggested challenging the will. I smiled, typing back, good thing we have those recorded conversations. What Patricia didn't know was that Harrison had been working with me from the start. The moment she'd approached him about changing his testimony, he'd come straight to me. Together, we gathered evidence of every bribe she'd offered, every threat she'd made. Mrs. Bennett, Angela's voice came through the intercom. Your husband would like to speak with you. I sighed. This conversation was inevitable. Send him in. Michael entered, looking like he'd aged 10 years in the past few hours. Claire, please tell me this is some kind of mistake. Sit down, Michael, I said, gesturing to the chair across from my desk. We need to talk. He collapsed into the chair, running his hands through his hair. I don't understand. Why would my mother do this? Money makes people do terrible things, I replied. But this isn't just about money. Your mother never thought I was good enough for you. The inheritance just gave her an excuse to act on it. But why didn't you tell me what was happening? His voice cracked slightly. I'm your husband. I studied him carefully. Would you have believed me over your mother? Be honest, Michael. His silence was answer enough. Besides, I continued, you weren't exactly uninvolved. Those meetings with Harrison, did you think I wouldn't find out? He paled. That was different. Mom said we needed to protect the family's interests. By helping her steal my inheritance, I cut him off. By standing by while she tried to destroy everything my father built, I never meant to hurt me. I finished. Funny how everyone keeps saying that. Your mother didn't mean to hurt me, she just wanted to steal my inheritance. You didn't mean to hurt me, you just helped her do it. Michael leaned forward, desperate now. Claire, please, we can fix this. I'll talk to Mom, make her understand. There's nothing to fix, I said firmly. The FBI has everything they need. Your mother is going to face charges for attempted fraud, forgery, and conspiracy. And you? I paused, letting the moment stretch. You have a choice to make. His head snapped up. What do you mean? I have evidence of your involvement, I explained calmly. Not as much as I have on your mother, but enough to make things very uncomfortable for you. Whether I turn that over to the FBI depends on what you do next. Are you blackmailing me? He asked, incredulous. I'm giving you an opportunity, I corrected. Walk away now. Sign the divorce papers my lawyer will send over. Make no claims on my assets or my father's company, and I'll keep your name out of this mess. Divorce? He whispered. Claire, I love you. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. No, Michael, you love the idea of me, the perfect wife who would play along with your mother's schemes, who would hand over her inheritance to keep the peace. That person never existed. Before he could respond, Angela buzzed in again. Mrs. Bennett, the FBI agents would like to speak with you. Send them in, I said, not taking my eyes off Michael. Think about what I said. You have until tomorrow to decide. The agents entered as Michael left, looking shell-shocked. Agent Torres, the lead investigator, waited until the door closed before speaking. Your mother-in-law is quite a piece of work, he said, shaking his head. She's still trying to spin this as a family misunderstanding. Did she explain the offshore accounts? I asked. Claims they were legitimate business investments, Agent Wilson, his partner, replied. But we've traced them to some interesting sources. Seems Mrs. Reynolds has been involved in more than just this attempted fraud. I wasn't surprised. People like Patricia rarely limited their schemes to one target. You'll find everything you need in those accounts. She's been siphoning money from her own family's trust for years. Torres raised an eyebrow. How did you know that? My father taught me to be thorough, I said simply. Once I knew she was targeting me, I had her investigated. Everything I found is in that file I gave you. They left with boxes of evidence, and Patricia was escorted out in handcuffs. She managed to maintain her dignity until she saw me watching through the office window. The mask slipped then, revealing the rage beneath. You'll regret this, she shouted as they led her away. You have no idea who you're dealing with. I smiled coldly. No, Patricia, you had no idea who you were dealing with. The fallout was spectacular. Within days, the story hit the financial press. Patricia Reynolds, matriarch of the old money Reynolds family, arrested for fraud and conspiracy. The headlines were brutal. Socialite scheme to steal tech fortune exposed. Mother-in-law from hell. Inside the $40 million inheritance plot. Michael made his decision the next morning, signing the divorce papers without argument. He looked defeated, his carefully maintained world crumbling around him. Part of me felt a twinge of sadness. We had been happy once, before greed and family loyalty destroyed everything. I'm sorry, he said quietly, sliding the signed papers across my desk. I should have stood up to her. Yes, I replied, you should have. He hesitated at the door. What will happen to her? That depends on how many other victims come forward, I said. The FBI is investigating decades of financial misconduct. Your mother's been busy, and they were finding plenty. Patricia's scheme to steal my inheritance had opened a Pandora's box of fraud. Former business partners, distant relatives, even charitable organizations. She'd been stealing from them all, hiding behind her social status and family name. A week after Patricia's arrest, I received an unexpected visitor. Catherine Reynolds, Michael's grandmother and the true head of the Reynolds family, requested a meeting. She sat across from me, every inch the family matriarch in her perfectly tailored suit and heritage pearls. But unlike Patricia's artificial warmth, Catherine's steel was right on the surface. Well, she said, studying me with sharp blue eyes, you've certainly caused quite a stir. Your daughter-in-law tried to steal from me, I replied evenly. I responded accordingly. Catherine's mouth twitched. Yes, you did. Rather impressively, I might add. She paused, reaching into her handbag. I've come to show you something. She placed a folder on my desk. Inside were documents dating back decades. Evidence of Patricia's earliest schemes, carefully documented and preserved. You knew, I said, realization dawning. You knew what she was doing all along. Catherine nodded. Patricia was careless. She thought her marriage to my son made her untouchable. I've been gathering evidence for years, waiting for someone with the spine to take her down. And you didn't stop her yourself because the Reynolds family name had to be protected, she said simply. But you're not a Reynolds. You could do what needed to be done without concerning yourself with family politics. I leaned back, understanding flooding in. You wanted her exposed. I wanted her stopped, Catherine corrected. The exposure was inevitable. Better it come from an outsider than within the family. She stood, smoothing her skirt. You'll be hearing from our family lawyers. We'll be supporting the prosecution's case against Patricia. And Claire? She paused at the door. You would have made a fine Reynolds had circumstances been different. Coming from Catherine, it was high praise indeed. The criminal case against Patricia moved quickly. With the evidence I gathered and the Reynolds family's cooperation, prosecutors built an airtight case. She pleaded guilty to multiple counts of fraud, facing significant prison time. The day of her sentencing, I sat in a courtroom, watching as the judge delivered her fate. 10 years in federal prison, plus restitution to all her victims. Patricia stood straight-backed, her designer suit replaced by prison garb, but her arrogance finally broken. She turned to look at me before they led her away. I underestimated you, she said quietly. Yes, I replied, you did. As I left the courthouse, reporters shouted questions about revenge and justice. But this had never been about revenge. It was about protecting what was mine, about honoring my father's legacy. 1 year later, I stood at the podium of my father's company's annual shareholders meeting. The stock price had doubled since I took over, our expansion into new markets exceeding all expectations. Success isn't just about innovation, I told the packed auditorium. It's about integrity. about protecting what matters, no matter who tries to take it from you. That evening, I received a letter from prison. Patricia's handwriting was shaky, her words desperate. She begged for help, claiming she'd learned her lesson. She even offered to reveal other hidden assets in exchange for my support at her parole hearing. I shredded the letter without responding. In my office, I kept a photo of my father on the desk. He was smiling, proud and determined, the same expression I now saw in the mirror every morning. He taught me more than just business acumen. He taught me to fight for what was mine, to never let anyone take what I'd earned. Patricia had thought she was dealing with a knave heiress, someone who could be manipulated and controlled. Instead, she'd found herself up against someone who learned from the best. Someone who knew that in business, as in life, you had to be ready to protect what was yours. Michael occasionally reached out, usually after too many drinks, lamenting what we'd lost. But we hadn't lost anything. We'd simply revealed what was there all along. His weakness, his mother's greed, my strength. Sometimes clarity comes at a price. As for me, I was just getting started. My father's company was thriving, expanding into new territories he'd only dreamed of. I was no longer just his heir. I was his legacy, proof that he'd built something lasting. And if anyone else tried to take that from me, well, they'd learn the same lesson Patricia did. Some people you just shouldn't underestimate.